This is how I win.
This is no democracy. It is a dictatorship.
Hate, 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 double hate.
Loathe entirely.
You're out of order! You're out of order!
Everything that guy just says is bullshit. Thank you.
Life is cruel.
I don't give a what the deal was. The deal is now changed. Either you stay or you go. It's up to you. End of discussion.
I hate the fact that I can't dance to that music. Hey, anyway, welcome to Yearless Sucks, movies that should be remade. Cody was forced to give me this slot, so thanks to him for making me do this. But, well, as I said, we're doing movies that should be remade. We have a great panel today. Over here, we have Ethan Beller. Ethan, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. You know, this is my first time on YLS after the top 100 that everyone loved, that won me the #1 spot every week. So I'm excited to be here and talk about some movies that should or should not be remade.
You're going to be very hard to beat with that track record, Ethan. Down here, we have the producer of the show, Kaleb Koho, in a unusual spot. What are you doing down there?
We had Spence, and then Spence stabbed us in the back and triple booked himself. So it looks weird. But hey, I'm back on the show as a panelist. Get ready for a headache. Do you have aspirin?
I do.
This is going to be a good fucking time, bitches.
I took 3 before we started.
Good.
And down here, finally returning to YLS, we have one Jacoby Bancroft, the mummy lover himself. Jacoby, how are things going?
Things are great. I'm so happy to be here. Happy to be hanging with you gents. Going to talk some movies, and I'm just thrilled. It's going to be a very calm, even discourse, I'm sure, throughout the evening. And we're all going to leave much better friends than when we started.
Well, we'll see how that
My number one is 1999's The Mummy.
Fuck off, Koho!
All right, boys. Well, since this is movies that should be remade, I have my suit here. That didn't work as well as I thought. But you guys are going to sell me on why these movies need to be remade. We're going to start with your 10, 9s, and 8s. Starting with 1, Jacoby Bancroft. Jacoby, what is your 10, 9, 8?
My 10, 9, 8. Okay, so I'll start with my number 10. I believe that I give a brief description, just very brief, right?
So just list your 10, 9, and 8.
Yeah,
if someone has it, they'll say yikes, and then we'll just move on.
All right, cool. So my 10, 9, and 8 are my number 10 is Mean Girls. My number 9 is They Live, and my number 8 is Aragon. You know, those great movies. I can tell by your face you're already sold on all of these that they should be remade. So I thank you for that.
All right, give a little, give a little why on each.
Yeah, sure. So I think Mean Girls. I think there's a lot of movies that should be remade nowadays, but I think that the way that they should make Mean Girls is different. They should remake the Broadway version of Mean Girls into the movie that itself, because I think that movie, that Broadway musical is awesome, and I would love for them to kick off a new wave of Broadway remakes into movies instead of just remaking the same movies. Do it with a little bit of twist, and I think the musical could do something really interesting with that. So that's why Mean Girls should be remade. Keep going, right? Yep. All right, so number 9, They Live. John Carpenter's They Live is a great movie, and it was in 1988. It was so interesting, the way that it shone a light on society, and I think it'd be fascinating to do something like that now in 2021. Give it to someone with like a different perspective. Give it to like Boots Riley, who did Sorry to Bother You, and I think that'd be a really cool way to update that premise and get a better lead actor in the role. And number 8, I'll admit, is a personal one, Aragon. No one might not be asking for a remake for this movie, but I am, because I loved that book series as a kid, and it was an amazing book series, and it was the first time as a kid I was utterly disappointed in a movie, just like, this movie sucks. So there might not be an audience for a family level Middle Earth fantasy type book series from the 2000s anymore, but I think that could be really cool to get justice done, because I think that's a really excellent story, and if everyone's mining these fantasy properties for stuff, then they should start with Aragon.
All right, let's start with your number 10. Why? like this movie's already great enough as it is.
Doesn't have songs.
I see what you're trying to do, Jacoby, and bringing it as a musical is not going to win you bonus points with me, even though I think most people would think so. So no, They Live. I haven't seen it. I've seen bits and pieces though, so I get the argument. I don't know. It feels like such a product of its time that I'm not sure, but you did an okay job. I can see it, I guess. And your number 8, once again, haven't seen Aragon. I haven't read sci-fi fantasy book series of the 2000s like you have, but sure. Knowing its reputation,
like a knock. You have such a tone to it. I haven't read like you have.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't read.
It's because Barr's illiterate. Don't worry, he doesn't know.
I am not illiterate. But moving on, we are going to go over to Koho for your 1098.
Okay. Everyone got the aspirin ready? Here we go.
Oh, God.
Oh,
my
boy.
number 10 is In Time from 2011. My number 9 is Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. And my number 8 is The Black Cauldron. No, yeah, it's not Black Cauldron. Okay. That would have been...
Not today, but it would have been for Spence.
That would have been if Spence was here. That's why.
Yes,
okay,
it would
so my number 10, In Time. I think In Time is a really cool concept that suffers from not a great cast or a really fully formed script. There's some cool moments in the movie, but I think the idea of like using time as currency and people transferring it through each other and even using that in like action set pieces can be done really well, just maybe not with Justin Timberlake as your leading man. So I think the idea would be prime for a remake. My number 9 is completely selfish. Rise of Skywalker sucks ass, and for a franchise like Star Wars to end on such an incredible low note, if we're things that should be remade but never will be, Rise of Skywalker, remake it, do a better job. It needs a redo because ending a franchise that way fucking sucks. And Black Cauldron is a movie I don't actually hate. I think the anime movie Black Cauldron is fine. It could be done way better. They tried to shove too much of the source material into one movie. If you are actually looking for a live action Disney remake to do, The Black Cauldron is like really high, fun, fantasy, epic stuff that in live action can be done really visually interesting. The Horned King is a great villain and a terrifying one, like Nightmare Fuel. You give that to someone with a really good voice, like a Keith David, that could be really scary and really interesting. So yeah, I think The Black Cauldron is prime for a remake from Disney.
All right, so In Time. Haven't seen this movie. However, I do really like the premise. I remember seeing the trailers and thinking, oh, this could be really interesting. And how dare you slander the great actor Justin Timberlake? But I do see how this could work. So yeah, you got to pass with me on this one. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. This movie is trash. However, considering that it's part of a series, it's going to be hard to go back on this one. I'm not going to lie. So minor ding there.
The topic wasn't most feasible to remake, Barr. It was most deserving.
You had your time. Number 8, The Black Cauldron. I have been saying for years that if Disney's going to do live-action remakes, The Black Cauldron should be the first on their list. If they want to compete with things like Lord of the Hobbit series and all of that, you bring The Black Cauldron to live action. Stop bringing things that are already good the way they are to live action. All right. So, with that, Ethan, impress us with your 1098.
Not a chance. My number 10.
Scott, sorry.
Was that? Oh, okay.
Scott's comment was great. Anyway.
Well, Green Knight hasn't come out yet, so we'll see, but it looks great. 10, 9, and 8. I got Cats. I got Funny Face.
What?
And I got Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Ethan and I going for the same thing for different franchises. Let's go.
Yes, I am here for franchise rescuing, as I would like to call it. Number 10, Cats. This is one that I really wish Spence was here for. Cats, as it exists, is a bizarre, insane movie. Everyone knows this has been spoken about to death, but I still think that as weird as it is, it's the wrong kind of weird. It's weird because it's like these were all the wrong choice for a movie to be made with this much money. I want this movie remade with all practical effects and makeup, grotesque cat creatures that are real and you can feel them and they feel like actual cats, not like people with skin fursuits. And I want it to be directed by like the Chiodo brothers, someone, you know, like the guys who made Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Something weird, bonkers out there. And I want it to be creepy. And in this movie, they would show the dog behind the door because you want to see what that fucking dog looks like. Creepy intentionally, not creepy.
Number one.
Gross. All right, number 9, Funny Face. Now, this is a movie people would probably not expect me to want to be a remake, but it's a really bad movie that people think is good. The problem being that Audrey Hepburn is one of the most beautiful women in all of history, and the movie is called Funny Face, and it's about how she's not an attractive enough person to be a model. It's absurd. Also, Fred Astaire is like disgustingly old in that movie and kisses her. It's really creepy, and it's not good. I want to remake this movie with a true Uggo as the star. It's called Funny Face, you know? And I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be mean. I've got no one, I have someone in mind who I won't say because this is not about bashing an actor, actress, whatever. If you want to know who I had cast in my mind later, let me know. But
you need to message me later.
It'll be age appropriate. It'll be an ugly person. So you believe the fact that their personality is what's winning over everyone else in this movie. And her co-star, or his co-star, will not be disgustingly old compared to him or her.
Jesus Christ.
Number 8, Bill and Ted Face the Music. Now this one's pretty obvious. I'm similar to Koho here, where Bill and Ted 1 and 2, Excellent Adventure, Bogus Journey are 2 of my favorite movies of all time. I was extremely excited for Face the Music. I was tracking its progress for years. I was waiting a very, very long time, and I was incredibly, incredibly excited to see it. And I was very disappointed when I did. The reason being is not that it's like a bad movie. It's just so incredibly cheap, and it feels so incredibly cheap in a really bad way. Half the movie is just shot on really cheap, bad-looking green screen where you can just tell it's green screen. And then half the movie is shot in sets that you could have in a student film because they're just like someone's house or like an office, you know? It's not what the final Bill and Ted movie should be. Bill and Ted 1 and 2 are both crazy. They're big. They span time and space. Or they don't span space yet, but I think they should have gone to space for this one. So I'm remaking Bill and Ted Face the Music. They go to space. They interact with aliens. They do big things, big sets. I want all of it, and I want the story told as it should have been, not one that was rushed on a low budget.
Okay. So, Cats. You were starting to have me, and then you went into the fact that the cats are actually rubbing up against people, and you want like the tattered fur and all that. You want it to be realistic. That's what Tom Hooper tried to do, is to try to make this realistic. It's an unworkable script. You cannot make this script work for the movies. The closest that I think anyone ever got, I think Steven Spielberg's like his studio wanted to do an animated version. That might have worked. Otherwise, I don't think that there's any way that this is working. Number 9, Funny Face. I'm still on your side. I think that this movie should be remade because you're right. Audrey Hepburn was not the right person for that role. Fred Astaire was way too old, and that first kiss is bad touch zone, like kind of creepy. I mean, we can talk later about the kind of description you want, but we'll keep it a family show right now. And then Bill and Ted Face the Music. Thank you for subscribing. Bill and Ted Face the Music. Okay, so I said about the Star Wars franchise, because it's a franchise, it's kind of hard to make it work. Bill and Ted, the way that these stories like kind of work and with the whole time like travel and space travel thing, you can actually make this work, I think. So you know what? Good choice, actually. I'm going to stand by this one. All right, but with that, the gloves are now off. Everyone is going to be able to beat you up for your choices now. So Jacoby, let's start with your number 7.
All right, my number 7 that I want to get into. We're talking a lot about like there's a lot of time elements and time travel movies that you guys have brought up. But I want to go into a time travel movie that definitely should be remade. And it's heralded as like a 90s fun sci-fi classic. But I think it actually has a lot of potential for today. And that's Time Cop. That's right. Time Cop. It is a movie that you hear just like, oh, it's a really bad Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. But like the premise behind Time Cop of, you know, kind of policing a timeline and dealing with, you know, all the shenanigans that go with that and dealing with rogue people who try to control the flow of time for fortune, I think has a lot of potential for today. And I think there's a way to do it kind of nowadays, because if you put like a more interesting actor in it, like instead of Jean-Claude Van Damme, put like a Sterling K. Brown in either the lead or even make him the villain of it, like have a dynamic, charismatic cast, along with kind of going bigger with the premise, because the original Time Cop had this problem of just like it talked about time travel to all these places, but then it really only focused on Jean-Claude Van Damme's house for like a lot of the movie. And that's like where he returned to like 10 years later. That's where like the whole final act of the movie takes place. Like you can do something bigger and better with Time Cop, and I think that's a great franchise starter. So Time Cop, I think definitely should be remade.
So having not seen this movie, but having
Have you seen any of mine? Barr!
When did Jacoby get so aggressive?
Sorry.
This is what becoming a Schmodown superstar does to you guys. So knowing what I know about it, it seems like it's a movie that's really a product of its time. So I'd be very interested to see where they would go. I'm just very nervous that they would turn into like a RoboCop or a Total Recall situation where they go so bleak and so serious that it sucks the fun out of the original movie. So I mean, I guess sure we can give it a go. Gentlemen, what do you think?
I've never seen Time Cop. Ethan, you're muted. I have never seen Time Cop. However, that sounds a lot like Loki. That sounds a lot like what the Loki show is kind of about. So,
it's what the Loki show started off as before it pivoted to a love story. So now I'm giving it the
spoilers
actual
for the people in the chat. But yeah, no. I feel that. If it's anything like the first couple episodes of Loki, I'd watch that.
I ashamedly have to admit that I haven't seen Time Cop yet. I feel like it's right up my alley. I think I would love it probably. I haven't seen it, but Jacoby's pitch sounded great. I'd watch that movie. So yeah, sure. Why not?
All right. He sold one person at least fully. So Jacoby, let's move on to your number 6.
My number 6. Oh, yeah, my number 6. God, I hate this original movie. So it was so damn. I watched it I think I watched it when I was a kid, and then I thought this isn't pretty good. And I watched it again recently, and I realized it's just a piece of garbage. I think the movie that should be remade is 16 Candles, because watching the original of this movie is just one of the worst movie experiences I've had in quite some time. It is a racist. It is just mean-spirited. It's really creepy toward women, and I hate how this movie is heralded as like one of the defining 80s coming-of-age movies. So the only reason I would want to get that remade and get a better version out there is so we can start erasing that original version from existence, and we can start talking about a better new version. Because when people say 16 Candles is great, I don't see it at all. I'd rather cast a more interesting lead actress and better side characters and less annoying characters. But everything needs to be rebuilt from that movie, and I think there's a way for it to be done, centered around a story of a girl whose family forgets her birthday and her feelings of worthlessness about that and how she lives her life. I think there's a really good story in there, but the original was so bogged down by everything awful that I think that's lost a lot. So I think that could be done much better today.
Jacoby, I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you.
I think that this movie is ass. But there's a great idea in there. It's just kind of bogged down by racism and really creepy men. It should work, but I think it's one that John Hughes kind of just unfortunately he was known for like cranking out some scripts in like a week, and I think that this was one of those. Absolutely, I completely agree with you. Koho, Ethan, do either of you disagree? And why are you wrong?
This is another one that I haven't seen actually. I have seen clips from it, and I've seen some really racist.
And I'm the one who hasn't watched movies.
Well, it's 16 Candles. It's not like it's something whatever. It's I've seen clips from it, and I've seen the racist scenes, I've seen the rapey scenes, and yeah, I agree. Any movie with those things in it that should probably be remade or deleted from existence. No, it should. That's not true.
So Disney kind of remade this movie in 2010. It was called 16 Wishes. It had Demi Ryan, and it's not bad. And so, yeah, I could see it potentially. I just don't like the idea of totally remaking John Hughes, because I think John Hughes movies have a very specific like time capsule that they exist in, and I think 16 Candles is one of the ones that can exist out of it. But like, if you looked at me and you're like Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, Planes, Trains, none of those I think can be remade.
I agree with that. 16 Candles, you can do whatever you want with.
That's fair. I don't give a fuck about 16 Candles. Thank you, Scott.
I don't know about that completely, but you know what? Well, that's another argument for another time. Jacoby, how about you give us your number 5? I lost count.
My number 5. Yeah, which one? Okay, my number 5. Okay, so I think Westerns nowadays are really tricky because I think that like when they kind of make them, they don't make a lot of money. So that kind of forces studios to kind of go bigger. They want to make them into like these action extravaganzas, like big action set pieces, a lot of explosions, a lot of everything, just to make them a really fun action adventure movie. And I think that's fine, but I would like to get back to kind of the way the Westerns were like a long ago, very kind of character-driven type of lone cowboy-esque adventures. And I think one that I think really could be remade into something interesting would be High Noon. Because I think High Noon is one that has a great simple story. It's one man kind of who has to defend his town against an incoming series of bandits. There's not like a ton of bandits out there. I think there's only a handful of them, but it's just him because everyone in this town says no. They don't want to help him. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to assist him in any way. So it's really just him alone. So it's him both feeling the sense of obligation to defend his town because he's going to do it, but also hating the town for making him do this by himself. And I think it's a very interesting story to tell that could be updated for nowadays. You get someone like, I think in my mind, I see like Bob Odenkirk, get better Bob Odenkirk. But like in the role is like this kind of down on his luck type of sheriff type of individual who needs to, strap in the saddle and fight back against these people. And I think you got a really fun Western in a way that revamps the Western for the Western genre for a modern age. So that's why I think High Noon should be remade.
So I really like High Noon. I actually really like this movie. I don't love it. And I think that it could be better. Jacoby, I agree with you. I think that this movie could be remade and could be remade very well. I don't know about Bob Odenkirk. As much as I like him, I don't quite see him in this role. Granted, I haven't seen Nobody or Better Call Saul.
So you haven't seen Bob Odenkirk. That's good enough.
I've seen Little Women. I've seen 2019's Little Women, where he walks in and he goes, he goes by Little Women.
And then everyone in the theater was like, hey, Bob Odenkirk.
Isn't that Bob Odenkirk?
Yeah.
Isn't that guy from Mr. Show?
Only you. That was only you. You were the only one.
I'm old.
I like Mr. Show.
But otherwise, yeah, I think this is a good pick, Jacoby. Good on you. Good on you. That's 2 in a row.
Thanks.
Gentlemen, High Noon.
So, having never seen High Noon, I inherently am not a fan of remaking westerns because I don't love the Magnificent Seven remake. I think it's fine.
Don't you like True Grit?
True Grit is different because they take a movie and then totally change what that movie is, and they basically made a new movie out of an old movie. So, like, my thing is True Grit is basically a new movie, but like, I think with westerns you can make a new western with new characters and original stuff that feels like old western and harkens back to old westerns without straight up just remaking it plot for beat. And I think that's like kind of what I like about most 2010s westerns. Like that's what I like about Django Unchained, even though it's like Tarantino's take on a western, or Hateful Eight, like they're very Tarantino, but they also harken back to westerns without just copying them. So I don't know. I think you can make a better original movie that feels like High Noon than just straight up remaking a classic like High Noon.
They tried something like that. They just did the opposite. It was called Rio Bravo.
Chris, you're right. 310 to you and slaps.
I agree with Koho in that, once again, I haven't seen this movie. I'm not a huge Westerns guy. I like certain Westerns, but no, I haven't seen this movie. But I do think that, like, this type of story and this specific movie, like, I feel like we could just do a new Western movie about another cowboy. If it's, if there's a good story to tell there. I don't know if this specific story needs to be retold as a remake of this movie. I feel like it could just be done as another new good Western movie starring Bob Odenkirk going, "My Little Women."
It's a spin-off of his character of like what he was doing for the first hour and a half of
My Little Horses.
My Little Ponies.
The first syllable of that got me really worried.
I don't know. I kind of want to see this movie now that we talk more and more about this. But Jacoby, what is your number 4? We're getting closer to.
Do I just keep going?
This is this one.
You're gonna stop at this one. You know what? We're gonna make you keep going.
The show is gonna go. All right. My number 4 is also kind of a personal choice based on a book series of an adaptation that just totally crapped the bed, I think, in the way. But it's an adaptation that is definitely difficult to do, and no one has really quite cracked how to do it. They tried with Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey in The Dark Tower. Yes. So do I stop talking now?
Just stop talking. Okay. Shut up, Jacoby.
So that's fine then, because now I know that we can talk about.
All right, Jacoby. Now on to your. No, I'm kidding. Koho, we're moving on to your number 7.
Cool. My number 7 is a movie that I actually adore. I love this movie. I think it's a great movie as is. But I think it's a movie that if you made it into a different genre and then represented it a la Mean Girls, it would be great. The Road to El Dorado. I think The Road to El Dorado is a fantastic movie. Make it a fucking musical. That movie is already a musical. There's one big musical number in it. Add the songs, get Elton John in there, have him write a bunch of new songs, make it a musical. It feels like an adventure musical. And you can, I've talked about this. I think this needs to be put on Broadway and make a Broadway musical out of The Road to El Dorado. And then I would like to see that readapted words into a movie. I think that the characters present a great chemistry that two really great actors could do. Give me an Adam Driver and Matt Damon. Give me the 2 guys in the last two. Pick any 2 actors in the world that are charming and funny and put them in the movie, and they're great. I think The Road to El Dorado is a movie that is very underseen, very underloved, but has all the makings of being a great live-action fantasy adventure movie, especially if you also make it musical, because it has all the bones of a great musical.
So your pitch is to turn this musical into a musical.
It's not a musical.
And then...
The Road to El Dorado is not a musical right now.
And
what
then...
are you talking about?
It has one musical number.
And then... Your second part of the pitch is we'll cast actors. We'll cast charming actors. I don't know. I don't hate this idea, but I'm really concerned with how you do the big stone jaguar.
In live action?
In live action.
A CGI giant stone jaguar in live action is your hang-up?
That's not the hang-up.
When we have CGI movies all year long?
And a lot of the times you can tell it's CGI and it takes you right out of the movie. Look, I don't hate this idea. But you did lose points by pitching, let's make this musical a musical.
It's not a musical.
There are musical numbers in this movie, Koho.
There's one. It's Tough to Be a God is the only time that they break the fourth wall and sing in the entire movie. And it makes no sense in the context of the movie they have. So make the whole thing a musical.
It's you already get that sense of that it is a musical. Sure, it's even on The Trail We Blaze. It's it feels like they don't need to be singing that song for it to be a musical number.
They should.
You get the same effect.
If you wanted to make that a musical number, then they need to be singing it. That's how a musical number works.
It'd be worse.
No, it wouldn't.
You're remaking a movie, a really good movie, into a movie that shouldn't be remade. You're going to remake it into a crappy live action one that when it fails and just is bad and just doesn't know how to handle it for anything, people are going to be like, man, this property sucks, and they're not going to watch the original.
Or it's the next Pirates of the Caribbean, written by the guys who made Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay, Pirate Boy, calm down. we're gonna call it the next Pirates of the Caribbean. Great. So it'll do well one time, then it'll tank.
Hey, 3 times. It's gonna do great 3 times, and then have a 4th movie that sucks but makes $1 trillion, and then the 5th one is just awful all around.
Okay, Pirate Boy. Ethan, what do you think?
I'm not wrong.
Well, I think that this is a good. I like this movie, but I don't know. Koho almost had me when he said Adam Driver. I'm like, oh, I can kind of see that. And then he said Matt Damon.
I was last duel jumped in my head.
That
Okay?
was a terrible second casting. Like Miguel and Tulio. Like Adam Driver looks like one of those guys. Matt Damon. What the fuck?
Okay. I'll fix it. Adam Driver and fucking.
I'm waiting to hear Gosling come out of his mouth.
Taron Egerton and Adam Driver. Road to
I
Colorado.
will only accept Owen and Luke Wilson. I like this movie. I don't necessarily know if it would work live action. Like it might. It could be a fun adventure movie, but I don't know about making it a full musical either. I feel like if you make this one live action, just take the one musical number they have and bring it to the background or something.
I'm fine with that too. Either one works. I really like It's Tough to Be a God, and I think that there's so much potential as a musical to make it a full musical. There's so many musical moments where it's like they have songs, like original songs, just playing under it. Where it's like, why isn't this? Why they're good? Make those songs musical numbers. Just make it all a musical. It feels like it half commits to a musical and half doesn't, and I think it needs to pick a lane and stick to it.
I don't need Tulio and Miguel looking at the camera singing about how sad they are when they're having their tiff against each other. I want Miguel looking sad while Elton John blares over the background. That's what I want.
All right, Koho, let's move on to your number 6 before someone starts throwing punches.
My number 6 is a movie that I guarantee no one has seen because it's really hard to find. It's called The Oscar. This movie is about an Oscar campaign in the 60s, and it is not good. And it's a movie that I think has so much cool ideas in it. Basically, Boatman had a really great idea. He's the one who told me about this movie, and he was like, why isn't this remade this way? I'm just going to verbatim repeat his pitch because it's great. Why don't you get the Coen brothers to make a comedy about an Oscar campaign with like a bunch of different people all vying for the same Oscar, with like Al Pacino and like Bradley Whitford as like a sitcom actor who like is going for his big Oscar role, and you have Al Pacino who's like the faded star, and like Adam Driver, the up and comer who's been nominated a few times and is the favorite. Like pick a bunch of like actors who have comedic chops that can play a sort of comedy. Like it's kind of like For Your Consideration, but like not at all the actual plot of For Your Consideration. And because I think The Oscar is a movie with a lot of cool ideas. There's not a lot of movies actually about the Oscars. Like you kind of have like In and Out, which is tangentially sort of the Oscars. And I think there's so much fun stuff to do with that idea. So I think this is a movie that deserves to be remade, if at all. So, okay.
So you're right. It's super hard to find this. I was thinking about watching this one before the episode. You can only apparently find it on Canopy. Yep. It's literally the only streaming site.
Or crime.
I am a good citizen. I am a law-abiding citizen.
As am I.
Oh, loves his pirates.
But I think I did read the synopsis, and I can see how this could work if you remake it. Kind of blend it with almost like the sweet smell of success, in that kind of manipulation kind of sense. So you know what? I'm gonna give you a pass on this one. I think that this could work. Gentlemen, do you know anything about this movie at all?
I know it's called The Oscar.
I know that it came out in 1966.
So together, I think we know everything.
Yeah, Jacoby, what are our thoughts on this?
Great idea. It's sure. I mean, a bunch of. I like seeing Hollywood do something. Your pitch sounded cool from what you described, Koho. I'd like to see that. I like seeing actors kind of play heightened versions of themselves and play into their persona a little bit. And I think that could make a really interesting movie. And Hollywood loves making movies about Hollywood, so it's like
you can almost like meta Birdman it, where they're not actually playing themselves, but they're playing somebody who's very clearly supposed to be them.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think
sort of like The Player.
I like this idea. But I don't like the Coen brothers directing because I still have a sour taste in my mouth from the last time they did an ensemble movie about Hollywood.
Hail Caesar's one of the best movies.
What?
If
Hold
you've
on,
seen
Ethan.
no movies.
Whoa. Hold on. Ethan, hold on. You're on trial right now.
Oh my God!
Hail Caesar! Hail Caesar! Hail Caesar is a really fun movie. Like, don't you bash this movie as if it's like one of the worst movies ever made.
It's not one of the worst movies ever made. It just kind of
not a good.
You said if you like movies.
It's a great.
So,
well, he said it's one of the best movies. So
it's one of the best. It's their fourth best.
we're not
that's
here to
also
argue
incorrect, but whatever.
We're not here to argue that with Hail Caesar.
I also want to point out. Go ahead.
No, you finish.
I also want to point out that Koho's fix to any movie is throw Adam Driver in it.
The man can do no wrong.
The man can't miss.
I will say really quick, I think Koho's pitch is good, but I want Christopher Guest directing that movie. I want it to be
nowadays.
I want it to be the same way as his others, Best in Show, all that, with actors.
For your
playing
consideration
themselves.
is kind of that, but it's not, and that's why it sucks. It's because he's like, it's kind of that, but not that.
Is Christopher Guest still alive?
I don't know, but he should not make this movie.
Please bring up Michael Campbell's comment. Yeah. There you go.
Michael. Yes, Michael.
That's Koho's arguments in a nutshell. Koho, let's move on to your next film.
My next one is one that I think only Brian Michaels and Kaleb Boatman have also seen, and Kaleb Boatman watched it because I told him to. It's a movie called Duets from 2000. This is a movie that is super charming. It's super charming that I really like, but it's honestly not like a great movie. I just really like it because of the source material, but I think that there's a great movie in it. If you don't know what Duets is, it's an ensemble comedy about a bunch of different people who are entering into the world of karaoke from different angles and all end up meeting up at this final contest in Nebraska, I want to say, Omaha, and it's really charming and funny, and everyone kind of comes from different walks of life. There's some great performances, namely Paul Giamatti, who's amazing in it, and Andre Braugher. And I think that you can make this movie better by focusing on mainly on one of those storylines and sort of moving the rest to supporting roles, rather than focusing on like 8 different people at once. They didn't juggle them very well. I think if you focus in on like the Andre Braugher, Paul Giamatti storyline and put modern, newer actors in it, you can have a lot of fun with that. There's a lot of fun to be had in a movie about a bunch of people who are just like kind of accidentally finding their way into karaoke, or like there's like the main character. One of them is literally played by Huey Lewis, and he's like a karaoke. He's a karaoke con artist where he like literally is like a hustler where he's like, I bet I can out-sing you. And then he just does and makes like $1,000 a time. And it's a stupid, dumb thing, but it's so charming with the right actor. No, I'm kidding. But you can find,
he can sing.
He can sing. So you know what? Adam Driver. But you can put anyone in that part, like all these different actors. And I think Duets would be a lot of fun today.
Hi, my name's Andrew Barr. I love karaoke. My go-to song is All These Things I've Done by The Killers. I watched this movie today, actually. It was the last movie I watched before we started. And this is a movie that shouldn't work. This movie is better than it has any right to be. But you're right. It's not perfect. They focus so much on the Andre Braugher, Paul Giamatti characters that the other characters do get lost. So I agree with you that aspects of this movie should be remade. The problem is it's a movie that is so of its time. Like, how many like big karaoke like contests do you see now? It's not as
right now, probably not a lot, Barr, because we kind of just went through something, okay?
Don't bring reality into this. This ain't reality TV.
I'm just saying. I think a lot of people. I think you could update that in a new way.
Okay, I'll dwell on it. I think it's a little too much a product of its time, but I think that if you were going to remake it, the way that you pitched it is the correct way of doing it. So there you go.
I'll put an asterisk by it, and you can just basically be like, "Oh, people rediscovering karaoke." There you go. That's how you get people into it. There you go.
There's
your fix.
That could work. Ethan, tell me why you haven't seen this movie. Jacoby, tell me your thoughts. You're muted, Ethan.
I have not seen this movie because I have only I heard about it once briefly somewhere recently. I like the concept. I think that's fun for like a karaoke contest or something like that. So I can see it working, but my worry is that if it was made nowadays, the soundtrack would be garbage and it would cater to a lot of really, really, either young people or family people who just have really bad taste in music. So I want nothing to do with that.
But actually, Beller doesn't want this movie because it's all going to be like people that you would hear of, and it's not going to be that indie band that Ethan likes to listen to.
It doesn't mean
No Vampire Weekend.
I don't need to hear like Taylor Swift karaoke or whatever.
Why not? Scott and I will be their opening night.
Right
yeah, you guys
in
will
the comments.
Also, real quick, I do want to say that is the saddest performance of Freebird I have ever seen in any movie.
It's so good, though.
Jacoby?
I actually haven't seen this movie either. I only was angry about it because Ethan, you heard about it recently because we talked about it because we both missed a duets question while testing for Full Metal Singles, where it's just about Paul Giamatti as a karaoke person. We were like, "What the hell is this movie?"
That's right. I guessed American Splendor.
Yeah. This is the only Paul Giamatti movie, so that's the only. I have no.
The only other movie he's ever been in.
Yeah, so I think I'm a little biased.
Yeah, Cinderella Man, Sideways don't exist.
Yeah, they don't really at all. Big Fat Liar, come on.
What is
that? Yeah, so I don't know. I could get behind a duets remake because I know nothing about the original. But now I'm just going to be sad because I love Paul Giamatti, and if you're going to tell me whoever you cast in the new one is going to be better than whatever Paul Giamatti and Andre Braugher did in the original, I'm going to call you crazy.
You know what? Sterling K. Brown replace Andre Braugher. Adam Driver.
Oh my God! Sterling K. Brown and Adam Driver.
Put Paul Giamatti in as the Huey Lewis character. Why not? Make him have him.
Huey Lewis was better than he had any right to
right?
be.
I was like, can he act?
Yeah, can he? Apparently.
He's there.
Koho, with that, let's move on to your number 4.
My number 4 is maybe gonna get text or I'm gonna get hate. Either way, is the last Disney. That's a lie. Is the last Disney animation 2 live action remake I'm going to pitch, and that's Treasure Planet.
Yikes!
There we go. Cool.
Oh, I can't wait. Ethan, let's move on to your number 7.
Yeah, my number 7 is one that is not such an original idea of a remake because it's been talked about for a long time, but it is The Warriors. This is not a movie that should be remade because the original is bad, and I think that it's rare that you get a really good movie that should be remade, but The Warriors is great, but I think that taking that story and putting it in a modern setting in New York City, but not in like the actual New York City we live in, like the world, the New York City that is in 2020 from the world that The Warriors was in, with all these goofy, weird gangs of people in costumes and themes. Like that is so much fun to me. That's such a great concept, and I love a story where someone or a group of people have to get from one point to another point, and there's just a bunch of shit that happens along the way. And very few movies do it as well as The Warriors does it. And I think you just you could have endless possibilities for fun casting. You could put Adam Driver, you could put Sterling K. Brown as members of these gangs. Paul Giamatti could be in there, whatever, But I think that the different fun gangs and the journey from somewhere in Manhattan, I don't remember where the movie starts, but anything in Coney Island would be really cool to redo without touching the original because the original is great.
So I'm kind of with you I on the sense that I love movies where I love it where it's just like they have to get from one destination to the next and like all the other things that are happening along the way. This one's just kind of a weird one because when you watch it holds up kind of incredibly well to the point where I don't know if it needs to be remade. It's so perfectly placed in when it was made that I don't know if an update to it is necessarily what this movie needs. However, it might be fun to see the outrageous costumes that would be created in the 2020s. So I'm kind of interested. No, but if it happens, I would love to see what happens with it. Koho, Jacoby.
You're a studio head who's not going to bankroll it, but you're going to support it, like when it comes out.
I'm gonna send it to our indie team.
I just feel like this would be like remaking Batman 66. Like I just don't think that like that just feels like a movie that is kind of perfectly the way it is. Like I don't think I need to see that movie brought to today the way it was with like a modern lens on it. I think it's like a perfect little like this is the 70s and weird cheesy 70s stuff. The way that Batman 66 is, this is the 60s in weird cheesy fun stuff. So I don't need it personally.
I don't remember a lot of the. I saw it like years and years ago, and I honestly don't remember like a lot about it. But from what I remembered about it, just it felt like such a 70s type of vibe and stuff. And so it's like it might be interesting to see what they do in the 2020s, like with that sort of concept and how they sort of move forward with it. But it's not one I'm chomping at the bit to see. I'm not like, hey, I really want to. This movie should be remade. I want to see that new Warriors update. That ain't me. But I can't tell you much else about it because I don't remember much about the movie besides the bottle clinking.
Warriors.
I just remembered right now, I guess, from you guys saying they have to move from point A to point B. That's like the plot of the movie. So I don't remember much about it.
All right, Ethan. Let's move on to your number 6 then.
All right, my number 6, another movie that has been talked about as a remake before, but I agree with it, and that is Flash Gordon.
No.
I love the original Flash Gordon. It is very cheesy. It's not good, but it's fun, and there's a lot of cool space stuff in there. I'm a sucker for, normal guy gets placed in outer space and has to deal with a bunch of aliens and evil people and crazy stuff. But the idea I have for Flash Gordon is that I want this movie to be treated with this like dark, not like serious. This isn't a serious idea, right? But you get Panos Cosmatos, director of Mandy and Beyond the Black Rainbow. Get that guy to direct Flash Gordon, because you watch Mandy, that movie's already so cosmic and like crazy and out there, and they don't even go to space. But the visuals and the score and everything that Panos does with his concepts, I think that would serve the world and story of Flash Gordon so well. I'm not sure if you keep Ming the Conqueror, or Ming the Merciless, whatever his name was, because that's pretty racist and outdated. You replace him with a new villain, cast Linus Roach again, or even better yet, cast Nick Cage as the villain, and get some young up-and-comer as Flash Gordon. I don't know, maybe Adam Driver would be a good choice.
The young up-and-comer.
Young up-and-comer Adam Driver.
I don't know if you guys heard about this young guy. His name's Adam Driver.
But new blood on the scene.
Have you seen the show Girls? That's what he's famous for.
Exactly.
I think visually, this thing would be spectacular to watch, and I want it to be crazy, R-rated, insane adventure through space, and kind of acid trippy.
Ethan, I haven't seen all of this movie. I've seen a lot of it, actually. It was on TV one time. But I wasn't sure. Let me ask you one question. Queen did the soundtrack for the original Flash Gordon. Who does the soundtrack for the new Flash Gordon?
Ooh.
Vampire Weekend.
Damn, that's a good question that I hadn't considered.
The only band Ethan listens to.
I like how you guys assume Vampire Weekend is the band I listen to.
You're right, I'm sorry. Mumford & Sons.
Oh, fucking kill me.
Judah and the Lion.
Kill me.
Man. You know what? Because it's hot right now, and I feel like I'll get a couple people in the chat on my side. Let's have Sparks do it.
Who?
Sparks.
Not
Jacoby's been living in a hole.
Not
Is it a band?
bad fit.
Yeah.
You know what, Ethan? Everything you told me, I'm in. I would actually greenlight this. I actually think that's a great idea. I like the person that you picked as director. I think that's a really great idea. Nicolas Cage may not. Well, we would talk more about Nicolas Cage. I would want to see some screen tests.
Though. I mean,
I would want to see some screen tests. But you know what? I'm in. I actually really like this the way you pitched it. So good job, gentlemen. What do you guys think?
Burn this with fire. I never want to see Flash Gordon again. I never want to hear the name Flash Gordon again. I think that movie is terrible. I think this character is terrible. I think everything about the character of Flash Gordon is awful. He's a quarterback for the fucking Jets. The Jets suck. You're going to make a quarterback for the Jets today? Of course he runs into space. He's on the worst team in the NFL. Okay, so he's got nothing better to do. Flash Gordon sucks.
They're not the Cincinnati Browns, at least.
Cincinnati Bengals, Cleveland Browns, and both teams are better. Both teams are significantly better than the Jets right now. Yes, the Browns were in the AFC, like, in contention to go to the Super Bowl, dude.
Jacoby?
So I was busy Googling Sparks song. And I thought When I'm With You was that song like, I can't feel my face when I'm with you, but I guess it's not the same when I'm with you.
That is not Sparks.
That is not Sparks.
That's The Weeknd.
That's The Weeknd doesn't sing. All right, it does. It
Yeah, he does.
Wow.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that's The Weeknd.
I'm learning a lot here, and okay, back to Flash.
Get educated with the culture.
Yeah, educated with the music culture. Flash Gordon. I've never seen any of Flash Gordon. I think it should have a new one because I know I should watch Flash Gordon, and I just have no excitement to watch it at all because I just feel like I'm just not going to like it. So I'm one of those people they should remake it for because I don't want to watch the original. And
90% of the time, I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah, sorry.
Are you, though?
No, not at all.
And the truth comes out. All right.
My job's my favorite job I have.
All right, Ethan, let's move on to your number 5. I think we should have gotten to this sooner, actually.
We should have. Yeah, we messed up the ice. We messed up the ice.
Okay. So should we flip flop?
No, just y'all just
say it.
Okay. All right. My number 5 is The Dark Tower.
And we're going to start with you, since you have it at a lower number.
Jacoby, I think, actually had it lower than me.
Well, yeah, it's lower as in...
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. So The Dark Tower, as Jacoby was starting to say, it was massacred a couple years ago when they made it with Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. Not bad casting choices, honestly. They both could work very well in The Dark Tower. But this is a 7-book series that has so much going on in it. The world that Stephen King has created, and I don't even think Stephen King's that good of a writer. I think he's a really great storyteller, but the stories are so strong that like you look past some of the dumb stuff. But regardless, the first this series is right. It's got like monsters. It's got multiple worlds and dimensions and universes. It's got timelines. It's got like all this crazy stuff with all these different plots and all this. It's horror, it's Western, it's action adventure, it's sci-fi, fantasy. It's all of that rolled into one, and it works as a really cool, long, drawn-out story that's 7 books long, and like each book is basically its own different thing, and they all feel pretty distinct from each other. Maybe the 5th and the 6th and the 7th are kind of mesh, but the first book is all set in Midworld, this world that the Gunslinger comes from. The movie just completely butchered the idea of the first book and the first story, that the way you should be introduced to the Gunslinger and the Man in Black. And I think you just take the first book and make that a movie. Like you really don't change much about it. You take the framing device where you know the Gunslinger did something awful, but you don't know what he did. You follow along. You meet the couple of characters. He does something in that movie that's a very important choice for him early on that changes him and that comes back later on. And you just go through these books and adapt them in order almost. I could see it like it's like a perfect structure already. And there's some racist stuff in the books that you could take out. I'm sure Jacoby knows what I'm talking about. But I just think it's a great idea and concept and world that has not been done justice.
Yeah, and I guess to piggyback off of that, just to go, everything that he says is correct. This is such a great world and great story. And I'll admit that they tried. Adapting the first book is hard because Roland is not a super. He's not supposed to be like a likable-esque character, because as it kind of grows into the franchise and he gets his quartet and he gets his family and stuff, he grows into someone who gets his family back. But starting off at that point at the beginning is really tough for any franchise. But the way that the movie did it, just like they made it a more family-friendly-esque way, and the exact choice the choice that they make in the movie. Anyone who's read the book and seen the movie knows the choice that he makes and the way that they changed that. And yes, I guess I can't really expand on it more than Ethan has because he said everything so well. But this is a movie that deserves to be remade, to be done properly. But you know what? I will disagree in the fact that maybe the first book isn't the best place to start with because it's such a hard access point. Even though for people like you and me, we'd love that because I just think that taking this time in order to do that would be great. But I understand why they made the choices they did in order to try to get appealing. And maybe there's a different starting point. Maybe there's a different way to do it. But all I know is that the way they did it was hot garbage, and they had something really special there that they could have used. And they didn't know how to access that at all. But as you said, great casting, could have been worked with the cast that they had. And it could have been a next big thing, but I think they tried to rush things too soon and do a lot of just wrong stuff, just wrong choices when it comes to adapting. But Stephen King's work is so hard to adapt. I think I disagree with you when you say he's not a good writer. I think he's
not a great writer. I think he's a great storyteller and maybe not a great writer.
I just think it's tough to adapt his stuff to screen. I don't think that ever really works out a whole doesn't work. More often than not, it does not work.
You have you can count on one hand the amount of times where it works out, and then the infinite amount of times where it really sucks.
Yeah, it's they're very faithful to the stuff. And it's when they're very faithful, they don't. It's not very good at all.
Yeah, Shawshank and Doctor Sleep and The Shining and 11/22/63, and that's
Green Mile.
Green Mile, and that's it.
Yeah,
1408 is actually not bad.
1408.
So I watched this movie for the first time last night. I didn't know that this was a YA dystopia series.
It's not.
Yeah. So how many books would you say that this was trying to do?
All of them. It mashes
in an hour and a half movie?
It takes things from all 7 books and mashes it, almost all 7 books, and mashes it together.
But none of the really important stuff.
In an hour and a half long movie.
Yeah.
Bullshit. You guys are right. I haven't read the books, but having watched the movie and heard you guys talk about it, the fact that they tried to do this in an hour and a half long movie, as shot and acted as if it was a YA dystopia novel, not the way to go. Yeah, everything you're saying and everything I saw makes me agree with you guys exponentially. This movie needs to be remade. Give it a little time to breathe, but absolutely, this movie needs to be remade. There's so much potential in this storyline. As you guys said, Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey, they're not bad in their roles. They're actually pretty good. But I also just hated all of that fish out of water shit. Once he gets to, what was it called? Delta Earth or something like that? Keystone Earth. Once they get to Keystone Earth, God, it just goes off the rails and it's trying to be a completely different movie than what it was already going for, which was already bad. Koho, have you seen this trash?
No, but I've been pitched on reading the books before, and the way it was pitched to me is that it's the thing that sort of ties all of Stephen King's work together.
Yeah.
And that makes me interested in reading it alone. So I will probably read all 7 books and never watch this movie.
Smart move.
Fair enough. Ethan, we will be moving on to your number 4.
Yeah, people are gonna disagree with this one. I am going with Incredibles 2.
You're insane.
What?
And that's because this is a fine animated movie. It's fine. It's just The Incredibles with a new villain, and it's just a lesser version of The Incredibles. When they finally were like, all right, we're doing The Incredibles 2, they had talked about it for years, right? And let me just check really quick how long of a gap there was. 14 years. Thank you, guys. 14 years. What I wanted from this movie was a sequel that continued the story 14 years later. I wanted the family, the Barr family, grown up. I wanted the Helen and I don't remember Bob, right?
Bob.
To be grandparents and the kids to have kids, whatever. I think there's so much interesting stuff you could have done with that, and that's a story that to me that justifies a sequel. It's something that is completely different. It's new. It deals with those themes of family in a different way. And it could have just been really fun and interesting to explore, as opposed to a sequel that literally is just like another story in this universe. Didn't, in my opinion, justify itself to exist, and it's not that great to me. I think we should have been in the future of that world with them 14 years later. It would have been awesome.
I agree.
So
sorry.
This one's kind of hard. When I first saw this movie, I really liked it a lot, and then I saw it again just a few days later and went, "Oh no, this might not be as good as I remember it being." I still think that there's strong enough elements in it. It's not one of the worst things that Pixar's ever put out, but you're pitching just an entirely new movie. A different storyline. It's not necessarily a remake as much as probably like a third or a fourth movie in this series.
Right.
Well, it could be at this point, I guess.
Right.
You can still just do that.
Ethan, start working on your spec script. Jacoby, Koho, thoughts?
I'll go because you're going to have more. You seem very more enthused, so I'll start first. I'll just say, yeah, Incredibles 2 was all right. Like, it was fine. Like, do I think it needs to be remade? No. Not necessarily. I think it did some things it did okay. It's not worth. I'd rather have a sequel, Incredibles 3, explaining the storyline you just pitched. But I still like parts of Incredibles. If Incredibles 2 was remade to what you wanted, we'd never see Jack fight a raccoon, and we all needed that in our lives. So
exactly.
I don't know.
Make it a Pixar short.
I liked what they did with that. I don't if your pitch would have altered the story of what they were trying to tell, of kind of trying to, I don't know if they did this successfully, but what they were trying to do of switching perspective with Bob and Helen and making Helen kind of the hero and Bob has to kind of sit back and accept that. I like that idea. I don't think it was executed well or that well, but I thought it could have been done better. But if we remake it, then we wouldn't have got that. So that's my issue with remaking it. I think there's a good kernel of the story in Incredibles 2 that we just didn't get.
Yeah. I think Incredibles 2 is good. I like it exactly the way it is. I don't want to remake. I will agree that it wasn't the movie that I wanted. The movie that I wanted was exactly kind of the same thing 14 years later about a Dash who's living in the legacy of his parents who are adults, Violet who's like a Nightwing character, and Jack and Dash being older kids now and trying to figure out what it means to be their own hero, and then also have them go back to Manhattan and fight a new villain that actually kills Frozen. Anyway, I think it'd be a darker Incredibles 3 would be really cool, and I want that idea, but that's not what we got, and I think Incredibles 2 is good the way it is because the movie that I just talked about is not Pixar and not what they would do with the Incredibles 2. So, like, what you pitch is a movie I'd love to see, but I think they can make an Incredibles 3 that's darker. I don't know why we have to get rid of what we have already. So
I will admit that, and I feel really dumb right now. I had never even considered the fact that they could just do that.
Make another Incredibles movie with what you want.
Damn it, why'd they do this? They ruined Incredible.
Also,
they ruined the film.
They did it.
Cody, I'm not hiding from your comment. I'm about to clarify. When we did mid-season co-Oscars, yes, I nominated him for Best Actor for Incredibles 2 when it was July.
Wait, just Best Actor in general?
When we did mid-season, middle of the year co-Oscars for 2018.
Not Best Actor in an animated movie. Just
we don't
like
have
not
that category.
Best
Just
Voice
Best
Actor. Just Best Actor.
I put him in my 7 for Best Actor for the middle of the year 2018 because I think he's.
You're a whore.
Was he 7? Was he number 7?
Yeah, he was literally number 7.
Okay.
He was literally my number 7 because how many movies had I seen in the middle of 2018 that I was like Oscar worthy?
I guess 7.
Yeah, like 7 movies. So, Cody's misquoting me. Anyway.
Okay, I don't believe that's a misquote. Anyway, we're getting into the thick of things now. We're gonna go through the 3s and 2s and 1s all separately. So, Jacoby, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is an 80s movie. Okay, how should I start this off? The Universal monster type of stuff has failed horribly. They keep trying, they keep failing. They don't know what to do with these properties. They don't know what to do with these characters. They don't know how to do this. So I think they should revisit something that actually worked, I think, in the 80s and was, I think it was in the 80s, something that was really fun. And that is The Monster Squad. In 1987, yes. The Monster Squad, I think, is a super fun time at the movies, kind of pitting kids against the most famous monsters of all time, everything like that. And I think that's framing, and it's both funny but also a little dark. It's like family friendly, but then it gets like pretty serious, and I just like the vibe it has, and that's because you have someone like Shane Black writing it. And I think the beauty of remaking something like the Monster Squad is that Shane Black can remake this. It's like, yes, his last movie, The Predator, was a big miss, but we know that Shane Black is a talented writer, and he can direct when, if it's not The Predator, I guess. But doing something like the Monster Squad, giving him the reins to write and direct an updated version that uses the Universal Monsters characters as both villains that for a new group of teens or kids to fight against is 10 times better than whatever they're trying to do with making these monsters into superheroes and to do all this stuff. It's a fun 80s movie, and I just think it could also because when I think about movies that should be remade, I try to think of it in terms of, yes, it feels great for the 80s, but what could this be like in 2020? And I think in 2020 version of the Monster Squad, I think would be a lot of fun in a lot of different ways. So I want the Monster Squad remade.
So this is a movie that is very 80s. This is early Shane Black. This is like after Predator, but before his 90s stuff.
Yeah.
Shane Black. And you know what? Shane Black can still write really good movies. Let's look at The Nice Guys. And this is a movie, when I think about it, I could totally see working. Maybe we can attach Edgar Wright to this. I think that Edgar Wright would be a really good director for this. I think that it is a movie that you can adapt for now, and it would still be just as fun. And I think it would look a little bit better than some of the practical effects in the original do.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. So you know what? I'm on board with this. This is you would get my money for this one if I was a big movie producer. I mean, I am, but
gentlemen, my check's in the mail.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. I think that could be really fun. I would ask Jacoby, would you do the same monsters, or do you do new monsters?
I'd like that you keep the core of at least Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy. Swamp Thing, I think, needs more time. And I'd keep them all. I don't know if there's anyone who I'd replace into do it, because I think they're all iconic characters, and they can be fleshed out a little bit more, and they all bring something new to the table. So I think that's a perfect 5 squad of monsters. I think would be cool. Maybe I wouldn't put Dracula as the leader. I may hand over the reins to somebody else, like what a mummy-led Monster Squad would look like.
Played by the guy who plays the Imhotep in 1999's The Mummy.
The guy
by Adam Driver.
Respect on Arnold Vosloo's name.
Sorry, Arnold Vosloo. No, it's not even Arnold Vosloo. It's just Brendan Fraser is playing the Mummy.
I'd put him in the. I'm sure I'd put him in. Oh, that'd be so
Brendan
great.
Fraser as the Mummy. Oh my God!
Here you go. Here's your plot.
Take my money.
I'm about to make his idea better. You take the pro tags from all the modern updates that you like and make them the villain as the character. Brendan Fraser, whatever Frankenstein one you liked. I don't give a shit. James McAvoy, Aaron Eckhart, whoever you like. Luke Evans,
Benicio
Adam
del Toro
Driver,
as
Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, that'd be great. That sounds great as the Wolfman.
And then you gender bend Invisible Man, Invisible Woman, and make it Elizabeth Moss. There you go.
And that would be perfect, because that's what Shane Black would do. That's someone like Shane Black, he would write that script. That's how he would approach it and how he would want to cast it.
That'd be fun. Honestly,
I'll say the dark universe I want.
I would say I would like this movie. I'd be interested in this movie. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But I also want to air my grievance that we never got the Russell Crowe Jekyll and Hyde movie from the Dark Universe, because the only great scene in the Mummy remake is when Russell and Crowe plays Jekyll and Hyde.
I mean, you're not wrong, but because that is the only good scene in that movie.
It was the only moment where I was watching this movie and I perked up and went, "Oh shit, something awesome is happening." I think a Russell Crowe Jekyll and Hyde movie still could be good.
Sure, put Russell Crowe in the Jekyll and Hyde role, but instead of how they consult the German to consults the diary, make it Jekyll and Hyde. Russell Crowe.
Love that. There you go.
You know what, Jacoby? Start working on this. Actually, I think you have a really good idea here. Yeah, start working. yarn. Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to Koho's 3.
Okay, so my number 3. If you've hung out with me on calls before, you've probably have heard me bring up this movie idea before, because I have actually worked on trying to make a thing for it. The Haunted Mansion. I think The Haunted Mansion is a movie that can be really cool, especially if you take it from live action and now change it to an animated movie. If you make it a Disney animated movie, and you keep the spirit of the ride and you put a little bit more of an adult flavoring to it. Kane and I came up with this idea 3 years ago, and I don't want to talk about it too much in case I actually can maybe do this someday, but I will say The Haunted Mansion is something that is prime for a remake. The ride itself has a lot of fun mythology and lore that you can bring into it. It also is just one of the more fun ambiances that you can find at Disneyland and Disney World, that ride. And that idea of doing a spooky feeling. And Disney has never actually quite made a movie, besides like Coco maybe, that actually directly deals with death in a meaningful way as like the major driving instrument of its film and its meaninglessness and coming to terms with death and grief and loss. And I think doing that in a movie, using the Haunted Mansion as a vehicle, could be really, really cool. So yeah, Haunted Mansion is something that should be remade.
I don't hate this idea. The Haunted Mansion, it's one of my all-time favorite Disney live-action movies.
Sorry, they are remaking this now, and I'm really mad because that means that my idea is probably not going to happen. Anyway.
Don't worry, get Kaleb Boatman. I heard that he's really good at taking care of things. And making things disappear. I actually really like The Haunted Mansion. It's one of my favorite Disney live-action films. Is it a great movie? No.
It's
no,
not a
it's
good movie.
not.
I enjoy it too. It's fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot. So, you know what? I'd be interested to see what a new interpretation of this movie could possibly be. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll send it down to the B team for now. Jacoby, Ethan, your thoughts on the Haunted Mansion?
Okay, I'll go first. Yeah, I think your pitch was making an animated movie. I think it puts an interesting spin on it. Dealing with death and grief would be something that would be pretty cool. Something I didn't really approach that IP as something that it could do, but it totally could. And I was just looking at it now. So I guess the remake that's Lakeith Stanfield and Tiffany Haddish are the ones who are in talks to star as of 3 hours ago.
Love Lakeith, don't love Tiffany. But
yeah,
agreed.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. But just hearing that but hearing the way that you want to do it and go about that, yeah, I'd watch an animated Haunted Mansion movie, and the way that I think that's just an interesting step forward in the way that they adapt these Disney park rides into something that aren't very similar to each other, but it does something different with them, and I think your way kind of does that. So I'd be on board for it.
I would be on board for a remake, but I kind of think this is the type of movie that should stay live action. I think that this is the kind of movie where you do a family thing, but it's also kind of creepy and it's spooky, you know. And I feel like the live action, like when I was a kid and that movie came out, like there were legitimate scenes that scared me, like the crypt scene or whatever that was, like that really scared me a lot. Stuff like
Terrence
that.
Stamp in general.
Terrence Stamp is always creepy. Bring him back. Yeah, so I like it as a live action. I do think it could use a remake. I'm not super excited about this new one. I feel like it's not going to be very good.
I wish Guillermo del Toro got to make this.
Yes, I agree.
I think his would have been really cool.
Didn't he try that? That's what Crimson Peak is basically
Crimson Peak,
right?
Crimson Peak is the movie he made when his movie fell apart, and he was like, I still want to make a Haunted Mansion movie that isn't the Haunted Mansion now. Made Crimson Peak.
That would have been so good. Ethan, moving on to your number 3.
Yes, sir. This is a movie that was previously Treasure Planet.
Yes.
So do I speak about it?
Yeah,
or?
You start.
Okay. You go first.
So there's not like too much I would say about this, honestly. It's a movie that's pretty ripe for a live action remake. One of the few that I think Disney should have remade as live action, like before something like The Lion King, which makes no sense. It's a big space adventure. It's an old story that just works like in any time period. If someone hears that pirate story, they love it. It's exciting. It's fun. The villain, Long John, I mean, he's like one of the best villains that there has been in a Disney movie, and he's very like nuanced. He is a good guy in a way, but he's also like he has conflicting moments, and he does really like dark stuff, and there's death in that movie. Like I just think you do that on a big like intergalactic scale, and it would be awesome. That's really all I will say about it.
Space pirates, complex characters. Give me another one of these. I love the Treasure Planet movie that we have. I think it's great. I love this movie. but I also would love to see that scene where they're switching through the gates and seeing all the different planets in live action. I would love to see John Silver and Jim in the longboat flying with a new original song underneath it, or another "I'm Still Here" moment with another song, or even just keep "I'm Still Here." But like, I love the dynamic of Jim and John Silver, and I think you could give two new actors another shot at that. I think you could just totally blow this thing into a giant space adventure that at the heart of it is really just about belonging and looking for a positive male role model in your life. Is kind of like a really endearing, beautiful story. Treasure Island is one of the greatest classic stories I think ever. It's just a universal tale that I think is so good, and I think Treasure Planet really gets to the core of why that idea is great, and then puts it in space and gives you pirates that fly through black holes and open up gates and portals to 1 billion different planets, and has a map that is still the coolest treasure map that I've ever seen in a movie, in that little sphere that blows up and shows you the entire galaxy. I'm just saying, and Morph is such a cool sidekick that you can do so many things with. I think Treasure Planet is just so ripe for a live action remake with so many possibilities on how to bring that into live action and translate it well. Give that to like any great director and just let them have fun. You just give that to like
Gore Verbinski.
Yes, give Gore Verbinski a giant
pick a random
pirate
name. Just name a name.
Gore Verbinski, a giant space pirates movie. I will watch Pirates of the Caribbean in space made by Gore Verbinski all day. Like, the person that I'd really like to see do it, honestly, would be like
Adam Driver.
Sam Mendes. I actually think Sam Mendes doing a space movie is something I've waited to see for a while. 1917 is really well made. I think he's like a great director on a technical level. So translate it to space, and I think to see what a Sam Mendes space movie would look like would be really visually interesting and cool. And I also know he can do characters really well because he's done them well in like every movie he's ever directed. Like American Beauty, he directs character dynamics and relationships super well. The best Bond movie is literally Skyfall, and that's because it's about a familial relationship between M and Bond. Like, I just think he handles everything that I want in a Treasure Planet movie well. Give him Treasure Planet.
What a swerve there at the end.
Yeah. So I'm gonna somewhere out in the distance, Mike Hanley is screaming.
It's a great fucking movie.
And you know how we make it an even greater fucking movie?
Adam fucking Driver.
We make it a live action movie with Kurt Russell as Long John.
Kurt Russell is Long John Silver. Let's go. I actually like that casting a lot.
Y'all,
that's a great choice.
That's a great casting choice.
I love this pick. I would give you all the money for this if it wasn't for the fact that Disney's only doing the previously successful movies. I would give you all my money for this. Take my money right now. Go make it. Get whoever you want to direct it. I'm on board. Jacoby, why did you forget this one?
Because my thing is, I'm fine with Treasure Planet the way it is. I don't think it needs an expansion. My problem with turning it into this live action type movie, I think you're going to lose a lot of the coolness of how that looks on the big screen. I think if I was going to remake it, I would honestly remake it in animation. I would do something, because I think the limits of what we can do with animation can open up space and all the worlds and all the wackiness that Treasure Planet deserves. Onto this greater scale than we could ever get. It's like, I don't know why what's in my head. Like the final act of the Mitchells versus the Machines is like this big epic fight. The way that what they do with animation in order to do that, they did something like that with Treasure Planet while also expanding on the story. Because I think the Treasure Planet as of now is too short of a movie. I think it could be much longer in order to flesh out the relationship between Jim and Long John, basically. But I think so. If I'm on board with your idea, I didn't know I wanted Sam Mendes to direct a space movie, but I'm like, maybe, yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
If you think about it, how has he not? It's so weird that
it seems like he would do something with like dealing with the man's place in the universe type thing. But again, if it was me, I would just invest money in making it a longer, updated animated movie. But
and we completely changed Ben from being an incredibly annoying character to an incredibly likable character.
That's all you have to do is recast him. Just Martin Short's an incredibly annoying actor. That's all it is.
What?
Possibly.
I like Martin Short, but he can be incredibly annoying in every role he's ever played. So
he invented chill.
With that, Jacoby, we are moving on to your number 2.
My number 2. Okay, what is... I'm actually kind of staying in a similar type of headspace as my last one, but I'm taking my pitch in a bit of a different direction for this. I think, so when this original movie was made, it was during the time when action heroes were all the rage, right? It was everything. It dominated the box office. Those were our action blockbusters or action heroes. So that's why this movie, The Last Action Hero, hit so well, because it kind of plays on the tropes of the action hero of what it did and poked fun at that. So, and I think an interesting way to take a new pitch, instead of just remaking The Last Action Hero and making it about action heroes, you make it like The Last Superhero or something.
Exactly
instead.
where I wanted you to go with it.
Yes, exactly, because like, and you get, I don't have exact cast in my head, but I would like throwing like Chris Evans in the thing, like going back revisiting his, or someone like that, a Chris Evans type, revisiting some of the most famous superhero movies from the last 15 to 20 years and kind of evaluating how that's kind of changed and grown. I think that's the way you remake that movie, because I think superheroes are so dominant in our theaters and everything in our film. Like right now, I think we're getting to the point where the movies are going to start coming out where they're doing different takes and different beats and different, everything about that, and more critiquing and analyzing them. And I think something like The Last Superhero, which I know, again, I used Shane Black in the last one, but there's probably someone else who could do better with the story of who's more in touch with like the superhero culture.
James
but
Gunn.
Yeah, exactly. Like a James, what'd you say?
Taika?
Yeah, or even like a Taika Waititi or a James Gunn could do great with kind of analyzing superheroes, of like what it means to be a superhero character in this day and age when the marketplace is just flooded with it. And I think that'd be a really cool concept. That's why I want The Last Superhero as my remake of The Last Action Hero.
So I watched this for the first time yesterday.
What? Wild.
Yeah.
Watch
There's
movies.
a lot of movies that you'd be surprised I haven't seen, Jacoby. You would have lost with me as a team partner. And so originally, before you pitched this, I was thinking to myself, how do you do this today? Because action movies are not the same as they were back in like the early 90s, late 80s, when they were like cheesy, like big muscular guys being like, look at like how strong and cool I am at the same time. Now it's things like Fast and the Furious, where it's dark and gritty, but still like stupid. And then you pitched this, and I'm on board. I think that is a great idea of how to remake this movie. You get a lot of you get this like produced by like Disney. It could actually really work.
Don't let Disney do it. Disney will fuck it up. Don't let Disney do it.
But they're gonna make it so family. We're gonna get like a Space Jam 2-esque type thing where
you gotta, like,
more
you gotta
talks about
just,
how great our superheroes
okay, maybe
are.
Disney was the wrong.
You gotta give it to a studio that has nothing to lose by making this movie and has no stake in the game. Give it a fucking MGM. Like,
Yeah, there you go. Fair enough. But you get, you understand, and I understand where you're going with this, Jacoby. You know what? As your agent, I shouldn't have pitched Disney, but as your agent, I will pitch this to whoever you want. Ethan Koho, thoughts?
this is a great idea, and I think that this should be remade. And I might slightly help you beat me this week by giving you the idea. Maybe Michael Keaton. Make it more in touch with like someone who's like an icon of that genre. Sure. Maybe even like a Christian Bale. Like you pick someone who like you can iconically say that is the definition of someone who you would think of when you think of like superhero movies for the last 30, 40 years, and you like make it run the way that
Henry Cavill.
No, but the way that you think of like
Adam Driver.
I think it was Ben Affleck. So I'm just going to cross that off my list.
but like the way that you think
Matt
of Arnold
Damon.
as like the definitive action star when you got to the 90s, like you got to find the definitive action star for superhero movies for the last 40 years. And I think like Michael Keaton, you could argue, is one of the names that would come up. I would honestly probably go Chris Pratt over Chris Evans, just because I think he lends himself a little bit more to the leading action man role more than Chris Evans in that way, and has a little bit more of a comedic range to play with the way the last action hero needs than Chris Evans does. But I think that's a great idea. It should happen.
I like the idea a lot. I do not like what Koho is pitching. I do not like Chris Pratt in that role. I like Chris Evans because he is funny. He doesn't get the chance to be funny that much, but he is a funny actor. I think that's a great idea. Yeah. I think that not at all Disney that would be awful. I think I agree with Koho.
A24 for Beller or nothing.
Yeah. Okay. You know that would be fucking great. Don't even deny it. I actually agree with Koho though. Give it to like a studio that just will go balls out with it. I think that's an interesting way to do it. And that's like one of the last remaining things that you could do that would be interesting for a superhero movie now. Because I think there's so many like new takes on superhero movies that have been done, and I think that's a good way to do it.
Man, I wish I would have ended on this one.
Yeah, for real.
All right, Koho, what is your number 2?
So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this now.
That's textbook pandering.
My number 2 is Jesus Christ Superstar. This is one of the musicals that I think lends itself super strong to a remake. The 70s movie is terrible because their conceit for making this movie is we're just the cast of the Broadway show that went out to Israel and just did the show in the middle of the desert for no one. And then the ending is the guy who played Jesus might have actually been Jesus. And that's the movie. And it's terrible. But the thing that Jesus Christ Superstar, I think, has that not a lot of musicals do have is that you can update this in really cool ways. My favorite version of this is the 2012 version that they had with Tim Minchin as Judas. I think it's my favorite staging of it because what they do is they put it today. It happens today. And like you have takes with the media portraying the 12 as they're called as sort of like outspoken social group, like social movement, and you have the Pharisees are sort of actual just like extra legal political operatives that are sort of like have a lot of say in the government, and you can play with the idea of updating it in a modern sensibility and giving them like modern looks and like really leaning into that rock sound today and updating the music's instrumentation, and Jesus Christ Superstar would be really cool. And I think that that's something that translates itself really well to film. I think this is a story that on its own merit is pretty transcendent of time, and that it's sort of that universal story of two men and their relationship at the end of their lives. And I think that the story of Judas and Jesus is such a cool story that has never been done extremely well on film, and I think this musical is the best attempt at telling their story in any medium, except maybe the original medium. And I think that the musical it has such great songs. Heaven on Their Minds has yet to be done well on film, and it's one of my favorite opening numbers in the history of film. Plus, Superstar is one of the best closers. Like, I just think it has great music throughout. You can make a great updated movie musical out of this. Get great singers, make a movie.
First of all, how dare you insult Carl Anderson like that?
He's the only good thing in the movie.
He gives a great performance of Heaven on Their Minds in this movie.
Yes, but it's not my favorite.
So there was a weird moment in the 70s where musicals about the Bible were starting to pop up. This was one of them. They got Norman Jewison to direct this, which was a good pick, but just did not work out well.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm buying this. I actually really like this idea. It's the only really good Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, so we actually need to preserve this.
It's his only good one.
Yeah, so we actually need to preserve this and hold this to the standards that people think Cats and Phantom of the Opera is, and we need to represent it to the world and be like, no, this is how it could be good. This is how Andrew Lloyd Webber could be good. I like the ideas of how you said it in modern times. I think that could really work. It actually adds like an extra interesting level to it.
Oh, and make the temple,
so you know what?
The temple like a club. Like, why isn't that a thing? Like, the temple is such a weird moment in the actual movie and story.
You're starting to push. You're starting to push it. Let's just keep it to capitalism and the marketplace. But you know what? I'm gonna go ahead with this one. Yeah, let's send it up to the main guys at the studio. Let's get a couple of directors and producers on it. Gentlemen, Jesus Christ Superstar.
I've never seen Jesus Christ Superstar, so like maybe I would watch a remake. I feel like I should watch the original first. I don't know, maybe.
Watch any stage show version before you watch the movie.
Yeah, I would watch the stage show version.
I would watch
if
you can watch the 2012 one with Tim Minchin and what's his name, Ben Forster. is really good.
Tim Minchin's great. So
and
maybe
your second best option is the one with John Legend and Brandon Victor Dixon.
Oh, hold on. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure about that.
It's
not
good.
quite.
That
The way that John Legend throws a chair in that is the most unbelievable chair throw I've ever seen.
Okay, but I'm just saying it's the second best version you can get. It's still better than the movie.
I don't know about that. Jacoby?
Alice Cooper's great in that.
You might be losing points on this, Koho.
I guess I haven't seen it yet. For this whole time, I was thinking of you were trying to pitch Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. That's what I thought. That's what I thought in my head. It's like I've seen a version of that somewhere. It's like then I realized it's not that. So I realized I know nothing about this movie or anything about that. So
it's just the last week of their lives before the end. So
yeah, so I think that'd be fun. I'm on board. I'd watch it. I'd be a producer and be like, yeah, I don't know anything about the other. Sure, sounds good. You did. I'm on board. I like musicals.
Give it to anyone but Rob Marshall. Fuck that guy.
Like Rob Marshall's available.
Rob Marshall, Tom Hooper. Stay far away from this movie.
They're co-directing it. They
no! Remember, Jacoby, things that you say, even if it's not your movies, can and will be taken into effect and account.
What?
In your grades. Ethan, let's go to your number 2 before Jacoby digs a deeper hole.
Number 2. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a movie from the 70s. It's a horror movie. It is Phantasm. Now, this is a movie that I love. It's one of my favorites, but I agree that with a lot of criticisms that I've heard of it, there's a lot of problems with it. It's very cheap. It's a little all over the place. The ending is a bit silly. But the core concept of it is so cool for a horror movie that you can take that concept and redo it and fix some of the things that, maybe were not working about the original. The concept is basically that this kid sees this guy, the tall man, who is this otherworldly guy running this funeral home, and shit just goes crazy. And basically, there's interdimensional dwarves, there's portals, there's an ice cream man who fights the tall man. Like, there's all this crazy stuff in there that I just think is so fun, and the characters are good, and the tall man is such a great villain, and the score is incredible. You do something similar, you bring the score back. J.J. Abrams is a huge fan of this movie. I don't want him doing it. I think he would make a really uninteresting Phantasm movie, but
he's a big fan. Don't want him to do it.
He loves this movie. Let's get that movie remade, JJ. I know you're watching. Let's get it made. It's just I really like this movie, but I think that it suffers from certain things that you could fix, and the concept could go even bigger. Like, they barely touch on the interdimensional stuff in the original because it's expensive to do that kind of stuff, and I think you could go all out crazy with it and do that in a remake.
So I watched this movie for the first time today. Fuck you. I hated this. I hated this so much.
Oh, this movie's great. Fuck you.
I understand the appeal of it in like a cheesy B movie kind of sense, but the way you sell it is a lot more interesting than this movie actually is.
I just explained what the movie is. I mean,
you said there's an ice cream man fighting a tall man, and I'm like expecting like ice cream cones to be going through the chest of this guy. But you know what? In a crazy way, I kind of want to see what a remake of this would look like. Who's the guy who directed like the Evil Dead remake? Fede Alvarez?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. He could do a good. Yeah,
Fede Alvarez might be actually a good pick to direct a remake.
Or if he's not busy with Flash Gordon, get Panos Cosmatos on this one.
We might be pushing it.
In the verse that we have here.
Otherwise, I fucking hate this movie, but I can see where it would benefit from a remake. The acting, we have to get better actors than the actors they got in this movie. Holy shit, they're awful. They're terrible actors. The only good actor is the guy who plays the tall man. So with that, Jacoby Koho, have you seen this trash? And
No.
Do you agree that it should be remade?
This sounds like a bad Conjuring spinoff. I'm good without it.
I wasn't sold on it until Ethan. You said there's an ice cream man who fights a tall man and portals. So those are the two things I need in a movie in order to want to see them remade. I think I want to see this movie at some point. I mean, I just want to watch the original to know if it should be remade or not, but I haven't seen it, so I have no idea. Sure, maybe.
You don't have to. You can save yourself from that.
I disagree. I think you should watch it, Jacoby.
Now I want to see who I agree
It's
with
on
more.
Tubi. It's on Tubi for free.
Yes, I love to watch I love watching horror movies with ads. Best way to watch
The ads save this movie.
I believe
So with that, we're moving on. Jacoby, what is the number one movie the most deserving of a remake?
Okay. Now, I really regret picking this one. I realize, but not because that last one would have been so great to end on. But like when you asked me to be on this, I thought movies that could be remade. This movie is the one that came directly to mind for some reason, and I go with my gut a lot of the time. This is a movie that I saw relatively recently, like in the last year. I heard some good things about it, and I thought it'd just be kind of a fun B movie. And then I watch it, and it's fucking great. So here's the log line for it. It's I think I got Raleigh Taylor is the movie's best special effects man. Now someone wants him to do it for real, but is he the weapon or the victim? Is it murder or is it FX? So I think FX, 1986's FX, is an awesome, just amazing movie about a low budget special effects artist who kind of gets drawn into this conspiracy about trying to cover up a gangster's murder, and then once they kind of burn him, he kind of goes on this rampage and uses his special effects wizardry to take down bad guys. And the thing about this, and it's like why I think this needs a remake. I'm so surprised it hasn't already because it's such a interesting concept for Hollywood overall. It's a special effects guy fighting crime, basically, like getting involved in a murder conspiracy. And the original was in '86, and there was a sequel as well. But I think it would. When we're talking about all these movies about remakes for movies, I think totally you should do it. It would look so different now, but what a special effects artist would use in order to fight mobsters and gangsters would be vastly different than it was 40 years ago. And so that's the movie that I want to see. I think it'd be great. I don't have a director lined up yet because it's such a very, very straightforward thriller, but with an interesting concept. It doesn't need any special flair or skill for it, but I think it'd be a good time. And I think I'm most surprised this movie has not been remade.
Bong Joon-ho, I'm gonna help you out. Bong Joon-ho, FX, why not? Fuck it.
I don't know. Maybe
I don't know. Jacoby, you started to lose me towards the end when you said we don't need a director with a lot of flair. That's what this movie needs.
That's true. Okay.
David Fincher.
Too much technical flair.
Exactly. Too much technical. But I watched this movie for the first time last night. This movie's a goddamn blast.
It's so much fun.
This movie is really fun, actually. Is the guy who plays the main guy a great actor?
No. Brian Brown. There's a reason he's not like around a whole lot.
The girl who plays essentially his companion, his sidekick, awful. She's terrible, actually. It's one of the worst acting performances I've ever seen in a movie.
Brian Dennehy's not bad.
Brian Dennehy is amazing in this movie, but Brian Dennehy is amazing in whatever movie that you put him in. However, I do think that this is primed for a remake. You get especially if you do a weird comparison to CGI versus practical effects, I think that you can do a lot with this premise, especially now that the technology and practical effects have become a lot, more impressive. This movie's an absolute blast, but I think if you get the right people on board, this could be a classic of the 2020s. So you know what? Take all my money. Go ahead with this.
And I don't need a lot. I don't need like $300 million like I would need for a live action.
No, you don't.
Planet. I would just need maybe a very cool 20 million, and I could turn a profit there.
And you would still be able to do some great things with it. Ethan, Koho, have either of you seen this, and why haven't you seen this?
I have not seen this, and this sounds fun. You just need the right director. Honestly, you were kind of describing it, and it kind of made me think of maybe effects on the level of the Mysterio stuff from Far From Home would be cool if you applied that sort of technicality of the movie. So I don't know. Sounds interesting. I could see a remake. I don't know.
Watch it. It's on Hulu.
I actually have seen this movie a really long time ago. I was like a kid when I watched this, and I don't remember.
You know what? That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense for you.
But it was fun. It's funny that Koho brought that up about Spider-Man Far From Home, because I was going to bring that up too, and how when I heard Mysterio was the villain, I was really excited to see how all the fun ways they would have him play with technical wizardry and FX work to make things happen. And when I saw the movie and literally every single one was just drones projecting a giant fire or water monster, I was super disappointed because that's just so lame with the concept of Mysterio. So I think that FX is actually a great idea for a remake because, like Jacoby said, like the original one, there's, like not a great lead actor. Like it's not, there's a lot of stuff you could do with that concept of an FX guy having to convince people of things with his FX wizardry. I think that'd be really fun. Yeah. I think that, I don't know who I'd want to direct this one. I feel like someone who's not that serious of a director. This can't be like, you can't make a serious movie.
I hate
Justin Lin.
Now I was just about to say that. I was just about to say I hate how my first thought is Justin Lin because of Now You See Me. I was like, now he'd be terrible for this. He's
No, I thought it was Louis Leterrier who did the first one, and then John M. Chu did the second one, I thought. So Now You See Me is not Justin Lin. Justin Lin's Fast and Furious.
Oh, well, yeah. Justin Lin did Beyond, Star Trek Beyond, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he'd be a horrible choice for FX.
Give me John M. Chu, though. now that you bring up John M. Chu, though, let's go. Give me the In the Heights guy. Let's go.
John M.
You know what? Give me Adam Driver playing the main role.
Give me Adam Driver starring and directed.
He'd actually be really good in this role.
As like the FX, because he's kind of offbeat. He's supposed to be someone who's like a little bit abrasive, a little bit like people don't like, but also kind of fun and has like this kind of goofy sense about him when it comes to planting his traps. Adam Driver would be great.
Koho, you did it, you beautiful bastard. Let's move on to your number one.
Give me like 1 second so I can.
That's textbook pandering.
Les Miserables was fucked up in 2012. Les Miserables is one of the greatest musicals ever made. It has some of the greatest music, the greatest characters, and is one of the most epic shows that you can ever put on. So when they were like, we're going to make a movie, I was like, this is absolutely right to be turned into a film. They said Tom Hooper. At that point, I only knew King's Speech, so it's like, okay, sure, maybe. I don't know if he's the right guy. And then he destroys this movie with a cast that is okay, except for Anne Hathaway's pretty good. Samantha Barks is a national goddamn treasure who kills this movie. And Hugh Jackman is fine. I think he's actually miscast as Valjean. He should have been Javert. And I think Russell Crowe is the worst performance in a musical film since the entire cast of Sweeney Todd.
You bite.
What?
All right, hold on, man. Pump the
Russell
brakes.
Crowe is terrible in Les Miserables.
What? He's not terrible too. The Sweeney Todd cast is great.
Johnny Depp is awful. Don't look at me and tell me that any of those guys can sing. None of them can sing. He cannot. Alan Rickman is the only person in the movie giving a good performance, but he can't sing for shit. Anyway, Les Miserables is a movie where you are only singing, and you cast Russell Crowe as one of the most principal leads, and he fails in every single respect. Aaron Tveit is fine. Eddie Redmayne sounds like Kermit the Frog singing, and it's not great. Like, this entire cast just feels like kind of like it could work, and it just doesn't. And everything that they show you is just really close up on their face all the time. I could see into their pores. It's the worst. What you should do is go back to the drawing board, get me a bunch of actors who can sing, and restage this epic grand music. The thing they got right about Les Mis is the scale. That movie has the right scale. The sets are great. The costumes are great. The makeup is great. Just do a big Les Mis movie with people who can actually act and sing. I mean, for fuck's sake, just bring Samantha Barks back and leave the rest of the cast behind. Like, bring Samantha Barks back, and honestly, why wasn't Norm Lewis Javert to begin with? He's played him before. He's killed it before. He's like a C-list actor. He's like worked with Spike Lee. Like, he's worked with directors. He's got the credibility to play that part. You have to get someone famous to be Jean Valjean, but you can find a famous actor who can sing. Adam Driver. Adam Driver, Jean Valjean's not awful, actually.
Too young.
He's too young. You're right. Make him the Eddie Redmayne part. But like, or no, the Aaron Tveit part actually is Adam Driver to a T. But like, You can totally redo this movie with good performances and good people who can sing in this movie. Would be amazing. And I'm so fucking mad that not only did this movie come out and like it was the way it was, but on top of that, they were like best picture, best actor, best supporting actress, best original song for the 30-minute or 30-second new interlude to One Day More, which is like the most nothing thing ever. Like they nominated this thing for like everything. And it's not good. It's not a good movie, and it pisses me off. Les Miserables is one of the greatest musicals ever made. It should be one of the greatest musical films ever made. Give me like Chazelle with that kind of scale attempting this movie, or like honestly, he's never made a musical, but he's such a good director that like on a visual grand scale, I trust him. Give it to Iñárritu. Let Iñárritu try and make a musical. I think Iñárritu could actually direct a great Les Miserables movie. So if you give it to an actual great director like Iñárritu, you get a great cast of people who can sing, Broadway-trained people, famous people. I don't give a shit. As long as they can fucking sing, and you've got a great movie.
I think you're close with Iñárritu. I was actually about to say Alfonso Cuarón could do a really good job with this.
Not bad.
So I know what some people are thinking right now. Barr, didn't you say that if it's already been remade one time, it doesn't?
The musical's only been done once.
Exactly. This is an adaptation from a different source material, and it's only been done one time, so I allowed it. Koho, you pandering son of a bitch.
Why isn't Alfie Boe for just fucking Valjean? Barr is Alfie Boe. Just put them in the movie.
Okay. I agree. This movie should be remade. It absolutely should be remade. The 2012 version is trash, and I blame one person and one person only, and it's actually not Russell Crowe. Tom fucking Hooper. You son of a bitch. Look me in the eyes, Tom Hooper. You did a bad job.
Absolutely big fan of YLS, Tom Hooper.
Yeah. Tom Hooper, I know you're a big fan of this show, so I apologize about the way I'm going to talk to you, but you did a bad job. You made terrible decision after terrible decision after terrible decision. You screwed this up. You fucked over the death of one of my all-time favorite characters in any medium. Go fuck yourself. Eponine deserved to die with more goddamn dignity than she did in this movie. So go fuck yourself, Tom Hooper. Remake this movie. Give it to somebody, Cuarón, Iñárritu, somebody that has a good idea of a grand scale, but also knows how to work with actors, and just like redo this entire thing. Absolutely, Koho. You are absolutely 100% correct about this decision. Ethan, Jacoby, what are your thoughts?
I have still never seen Les Mis. I'm sure, I've heard only bad things about it for most people. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen the original, the musical either. So like, I feel like if I saw the movie, I probably wouldn't hate it because I'm not like precious about the source material. And I mean,
you would still hate it. You don't even know the source material.
Right,
Knowing you, do you really like looking up Hugh Jackman's nostrils for 2 hours and 45 minutes?
As he sings off key for more than 60% of it.
And Scream sings "Bring Him Home."
I will watch it at some point. But sure. I mean, I'd have no problem with a better version of that musical being made.
I was always of the mindset when I watched this movie because I didn't super know the source material super well, but I know it's a big ass thing that deserves more time. I remember while watching it, I was like, this should have been 2 movies. Like they should have split it up more. Like it should have been a longer thing to tell the story. Because as someone who didn't know any of the source material, I wasn't invested in anybody. I didn't know anybody. I didn't. And I will admit, and I still defend this. I don't mind Russell Crowe in that movie. I actually like the way that he sings. I think it's a little.
He's not the worst performance I've ever seen.
My wife is giving me the eye right now, like I talk about this pretty frequently about how the fact that I'm the only Russell Crowe defender in that movie. I like his
Jacoby, Lucas Schildbach and I will actually stand by you with that.
But I agree with everything that you said. That this movie is bad, and I hate watching it, and I hate having to watch it for. I had to watch it for like Full Metal, so I'm getting through it was just a bore, and it needs to be remade. It's such an epic story. It's such a great story. It needs a better cast. It needs better singers. It needs better just absolutely everything. Because I don't hate Russell Crowe as much as this movie, but I hate Eddie Redmayne and I hate Amanda Seyfried in this thing. And for them to be the central point of everything just fucks everything up in this entire thing. Samantha Barr.
Believe me when I say that love triangle works so much better in the original because of how Ebony dies. But moving on.
Imagine just go watch the version with Alfie Boe and Norm Lewis.
I should.
It's so great. Also, if you haven't seen the Oscars from that year, they literally do One Day More on stage as a group, and it's maybe the worst thing I've ever seen in Oscars history. It's
what's worse
so
than Les
bad.
Mis? The Les Mis Oscars
performance.
song.
The Oscars performance with everyone singing is terrible because they're all singing live, and that's where you realize Sacha Baron Cohen and Helena Bonham Carter, and honestly everyone but Aaron Tveit, Hugh Jackman, and Samantha Parks like actually can't sing, and those three are the only ones who actually are trained singers. It's terrible.
All right, but with that being said, we're going to move on to Ethan's number one, the final number one of the night. Ethan, what movie most deserves a remake?
So I thought about this for a long time, and it's like, I don't know, what movie deserves a remake more than another one because it's just going to be a new version of the thing. I ended up going with one of my favorite movies, a movie that I believe to be perfect. And there's a reason that this perfect movie needs to be remade. Charlie Kaufman's Adaptation. Now, the reason that you remake Adaptation is because you have Charlie Kaufman remake Adaptation, and you bring back Nick Cage as Charlie Kaufman, and you make the movie about Charlie Kaufman remaking Adaptation, and you just let it go. I'm not smart enough to give you a plot of what Charlie Kaufman would do with that idea, and he probably would not be interested in doing that anyway, knowing him. But because I know him personally, I don't. I wish I did. Charlie, if you're watching, call me.
Big fan of the show, Charlie Kaufman. He and Tom Hooper are watching this together.
They have watch parties every week. It's really sweet.
With Adam Driver. That's why we're pandering so hard.
I think that this would be such a crazy, interesting idea, and I think that if Charlie Kaufman did it, he would find a way to do it right. And I would love to see it happen. And it's not because I think Adaptation's not a good movie. I think Adaptation's perfect, but because of the nature of what Adaptation is, I think it would be so interesting to see Charlie Kaufman do that movie because he was trying to adapt a book. That was a real story, and it turned into this nuts, crazy movie. So just have him remake this and just let him go crazy and see what happens. That's what I want.
So, I watched this for the first time last night.
What?
You used it as a strength against me.
That was my strength, though.
Well, thank you, because you helped me beat him in another league because of it. Anyway.
Go shut. Shut up. I really like this movie. But I'm watching this going, how the hell do you remake this movie? And your pitch is more of a sequel. I think this would make for a really great sequel.
It's not a sequel, it's a remake.
But so you're remaking the movie about remaking the movie, but then it's a different story technically than the first movie.
It's still called Adaptation.
So it's a continuation of the movie.
That plays into the plot. Charlie
Exactly.
Kaufman
Can I raise an issue?
Remake, and then he's like, I don't know how to make a remake. I'm making it. Halfway through, the studio tells him, you're making a sequel. And he's like, well, what am I?
You just pitched the more pretentious version of Jay and Silent Bob reboot. That's literally what you're pitching.
I haven't seen that shitty movie, so I don't.
It's a good movie. It'd be better than this movie.
That's not.
I don't know about that.
Okay, Charlie
adaptation?
Kaufman has written a good movie since Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Get the fuck out of here,
Wrong.
He has lost.
Outta here.
Synecdoche, New York is awful.
No, it's
It's a
not.
masterpiece.
I'm thinking of ending things is awful.
Also,
No.
almost a masterpiece.
Anomalisa is the only movie he's made in the last since
Also
then
a
that's
great
actually
movie.
worked.
So you're
That's actually been
automatically
good.
wrong with your
Sure,
statement.
I'll amend it. Anomalisa is total crazy that it actually worked. Kaufman has lost everything that makes Kaufman. He's now
He's
living in
made
this.
one movie since
He's living in this.
Anomalisa.
Dude, I'm talking about the 2 movies that he's made since Eternal Sunshine. But besides
3
Anomalisa-
movies.
besides
3
Anomalisa-
movies.
I think Anomalisa is not his fault. I think the co-director is the reason why Anomalisa is good. Anyway, what I'm saying is Synecdoche and I'm Thinking of Ending Things are prime examples of why I think Kaufman
Those
has
are both
lost
fantastic movies.
They're
and
terrible
both
because
great.
what Kaufman does,
really great,
what Kaufman does now is he lives into that world of I'm Charlie Kaufman and people are expecting me to make something really weird to the point where it doesn't make any sense and then pretend like it makes the meaning of life in it. And they're awful. He doesn't make any. He does not make good movies now. I do not want him to come
This is
back to
coming from
adaptation
a
at
man
all.
who loves Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
5. He likes the 5th one
The 5th
too.
one is fine. The
5
World's
is one
End is
of-
better
you like
than
the 5th
anything
one?
he's made.
Wait, I think you said that. Oh my god.
What I'm saying, hold on. What I'm saying is I don't want him to touch his best movie, or come back to his best movie at all. His
Gordon Verbinski came back to his best movie.
No, he didn't, because he made 3 movies and never came back to it. But what I'm saying is
The 3rd one's not good.
The 3rd one is very good. Anyway, the fucking thing with adaptation is that it's a perfect, beautiful anomaly that shouldn't work, but somehow works. So why try and replicate history in a way where it will never work?
Like I wasn't on board with this when you first said it, but then I realized like it's the perfect source material to actually try to get a remake for it because Charlie Kaufman is actually something because everything that you just raised about how everyone expects Charlie Kaufman to deliver something weird and out there and stuff that they seems to have lost his step that it's not a movie that should work for a remake. That all would play into the plot of Charlie Kaufman trying to write this. I'm just like I don't know, like how am I going to do this and turning it into something crazy? I had no idea how he would, but again, so I started off not on board with this at all. I thought it was a bad choice, and now I realized, you know what? Sure, like give it a try.
This would be awful. The only way I would even consider this being a thing is if Spike Jonze comes back to direct. Because if Kaufman directs this himself,
sure.
it'll be the
Why
worst
not?
movie.
Come back.
If Kaufman directs this himself, it'll be the worst movie ever made.
There would be a scene where he actually confronts Spike Jonze about directing this movie in it for everything. And Spike Jonze would be
This
like,
sounds,
I don't
this
know
sounds so dumb. I'm not even gonna lie to you. This sounds so bad. I never need this in my life.
See, I want to see this movie now, but I still don't know if this is technically a remake. My head hurts.
That's the question.
That's
What they're pitching you is not even a movie. They're pitching you a guy trying to come up with a movie that turns into him.
That's what the first
That's
one
what
is.
it is. And that's not fun to watch.
An adaptation of adaptation. It's
realize
movie Inception.
I have to walk this back, even if this means I lost, because I totally just realized that I just said that out loud, and the movie I made is totally that idea. Anyway, cool.
All right. So now I have to take everything into account because I had grades, and now I'm not sure what the grades are going to be.
Should
I
we
will
show
say,
Spence's list first, just so then we're like,
yeah, let's put up Spence's list because
This one,
Spence
yeah.
would have come in last place.
Dave?
FX, great idea. Held up. Why? The player, no.
He had FX. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the player, no. Gattaca, I haven't seen. Tootsie, maybe. I don't like Tootsie as much as everyone else, to be honest. Les Mis, right? Les Mis, yes. Dave, no.
why
That
would you
movie-
remake Dave ever?
There's no reason to remake Dave. It's so perfect the way it is. The Purge. We're still making Purge movies. I don't want to see The Purge done again. I'm already seeing the 17th one. And The Black Cauldron, been saying it, as I said, for a long time. Yes, should be remade. But still, Adelaide would get a C this episode. And with everything that's just happened, oh, this is tough.
Give me the last place for saying Kaufman sucks. I don't give a shit.
In first place with a B+ is Jacoby Bancroft. you really stumbled at the beginning with Mean Girls and They Live. Then you started to actually get into a swing of movies that I completely agree with you. You sold The Last Action Hero remake really well. So yeah, Jacoby, you get a B+ today. And then thinking over literally everything that was said and everything that was brought up.
This man
In
wants to
second
remake
place.
Phantasm. He wants to remake a shitty movie called Phantasm.
In second place with
He wants to remake Cats. He wants to make Cats again.
In second place,
okay,
with a solid B, Kaleb Koho.
Thank you. He wants to make fucking Cats again.
Kaleb Koho gets a B. In Time, I think is a great idea. Star Wars, I mean, I don't like that movie, but I don't think he can really remake it at the moment. Black Cauldron, El Dorado, that was so confusing. The Oscar duets, a lot of movies that I think have a lot of potential, but I don't know where exactly you would necessarily take it. Les Mis at number 1 really helped your case, though, because I think that's a great pick. Coming in third with a B-, making this a really close episode is Ethan Beller. Cats hurt you. Funny Face, Bill and Ted Face the Music, The Warriors, Flash Gordon. Your Flash Gordon pitch is what almost put you over Koho. But then you had The Incredibles 2, which was an odd pick, and Phantasm, fine. Adaptation, I'm still confused whether that's a sequel or if it's an actual adaptation. With that being said, here is the correct list.
I don't have.
Oh yeah, the combined list. I'm sorry, the combined list.
Yeah, combined list is that.
The Purge, Phantasm, Jesus Christ Superstar.
It's because when Spence was on the list, I made the graphic and put it all together with the combined list. So that's why we brought up Spence's list at all, is because they're math back then.
Yeah, we couldn't go back on the math. Last Action Hero, Adaptation, FX, The Black Cauldron, The Dark Tower, Treasure Planet, and the movie that should be the most remade, Les Miserables, the musical.
You have to share your correct list, because if it's not Cody, I don't make a graphic.
Oh, well,
that's the rule. Them's the rules. I do make them, but yes.
Wow, I thought we were teammates on this episode.
I'll retroactively make myself third and Bella give me second. That's fine.
Fine. The correct list would be number 10 being JFK. The conspiracy theory angle would actually really work well in the modern times. Funny Face, I agree with Ethan. The Dark Tower at number 8. Number 7 being FX. Number 6 being Paris When It Sizzles. Number 5 being Les Miserables 2012. Number 4 being Gypsy. Number 3, To Catch a Thief, the Alfred Hitchcock film, actually could really benefit from an update. Number 2, Mike Nichols' The Fortune. Give that to the Coen brothers. They would kill that. And number 1, 1964's The Best Man, Henry Fonda movie. But with that being said, Koho, what other events do we have coming up?
Next week, Kaleb Boatman kicks off Top 40 Animated Movies. He has his panel. We will be going all month long. Top 40 Animated Movies. They peer pressured him. Non-theatrically released films may or may not appear on the top 40. It's going to be weird as fuck. Anyway, after that, September 1st, Best Classic Actors represented by one film. I believe Zach Ford might be hosting that.
I think
Not
so.
entirely sure. I think it is Zach. September 8th, Cody will be hosting his last show of the year, 2004 Movies, because Kurt Kolakowski will be back starting September 15th for Top 100 Series Volume 4 to round out the year, ending on November 24th. And then we will be done with this year's Your List Sucks. So if you want to submit for Best Classic Actors 2004 Movies, you got a little bit of time. Watch some of the stuff and then submit for the topic. But send those to Cody or I, and be sure to come back for Top 40 Animated starting next week.
Yes, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it greatly. Koho, thank you for producing. Ethan, Jacoby, thank you for coming on. And so for Jacoby, for Koho, for Ethan, and myself, y'all have a good night.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
You're not going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Now what will it be? Death or exile?
You're hopeless. You're a hopeless mental case.
You better lawyer up, asshole. Because I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything.
Normally, I would say Auf Wiedersehen. But since what Auf Wiedersehen actually means is till I see you again,
And since I never wish to see you again, to you, sir, I say goodbye.